Hello there. Greetings, salutations, howdy, all that good stuff. I'm Robert McKay. The channel is Christianity on the Bottom Shelf. I'm trying to, in these videos, make various aspects of Christianity comprehensible to people who know little or nothing about Christianity. My view is, if you don't know what Christianity is, you can't properly evaluate whether you even believe it. And B, if you're going to, after all, attack Christianity, you need to attack the real thing, not an imaginary straw man. So I'm trying to explain things. Now, I want you at the end of this video, at the end of any of my videos, to agree with me. If I didn't believe Christianity, I wouldn't be doing this. But I want you to at least understand the Christian position so that you can deal with it honestly and intelligently. Tonight, I dropped my bookmark. I'm going to bend down and get my bookmark. Should I talk up? Should I make everything into a question? This is the Bible. I'm wearing a shirt. I don't know. Or I could do vocal fry. And I'm not very good at that because it is so unnatural in normal speaking. And see what it did to my throat when I tried? And I'm not going to talk. I can't even say I'm not going to talk so fast. I can't do it. I don't know how people talk that fast. I honestly don't. My mouth will not move that fast. But anyway, I'm going to go to the second chapter of John. It's a piece of history you may know, or at least know about. And I'm going to go ahead and read the first 12 verses. It's a fairly long passage for such a simple channel, especially when I try to keep the video short. But I think in order to understand what I'm saying, we need the whole passage. So this is the second chapter of the book of John in the New Testament, beginning in the first verse. And on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what have I to do with you? My hour has not yet come." He was not being disrespectful. In Spanish, sometimes you will address a woman as mujer, which means woman. Mujer, por favor, quiero una cerveza. Woman, please, I'd like a beer. In our English-speaking context, in our American context, it sounds disrespectful. It's not. Culture does make a difference. "Woman, what have I to do with you? My hour has not yet come." Verse 5, his mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." I'll point out here that this is the only time in the entire Bible where we see Mary giving someone an order. Think about that. Verse 6, now there were 6 stone water jars set there for the Jewish custom of purification, containing 2 or 3 measures each. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water jars with water." So they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it to him. Now when the head waiter tasted the water, which had become wine, and he did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely, then the inferior wine, but you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this in Cana of Galilee as the beginning of his signs and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and they stayed there a few days. So, we have Jesus turning water into wine. At what exact point in this, we don't know. Sometime between when they brought the water and poured it into the water jars and when the head waiter, let me be sure I'm looking at remembering things correctly. Yes, sometime between when they filled the water jars and when the head waiter tasted it, somewhere in that interval, the water became wine. Jesus didn't wave his hand, he didn't say any words. It happened by his mere will. He desired it to happen, he determined it would happen, therefore it happened. In my series on the Trinity, I went another direction in demonstrating that Jesus is God, but this demonstrates it. No mere mortal by his will could cause this to happen. But what I want us to notice is that actual water became genuine wine. Now, how could that happen? There may be other secularist possibilities, but the only one I can think of to try to emulate this without miraculous occurrence is to take some water, take something grape flavored or wine flavored, take some alcohol, and mix it all together. But now I don't know, maybe you don't drink alcohol. Maybe you do, I don't know. If you do, and if you know wine, which I don't, imagine sitting down in a restaurant, you order a bottle of what have you, and the waiter goes and finds that the last bottle of that they had in the cellar is gone. So hurriedly, they mix water, they mix wine flavor, they mix color, they mix all this, and bring it to you. No matter how good the imitation is, are you going to think it is, in fact, wine? I think not. What I know is whiskey, specifically and especially bourbon. And I cannot imagine any way in which you could, by that sort of process, imitate successfully even cheap bourbon. And I don't think you could even imitate box wine successfully that way. What actually did happen was water became wine. Now, what had to happen in that? Well, water, assuming it was absolutely pure, which I'm sure it wasn't, the distillation was just being discovered about 2,000 years ago, more or less about this time, and they distilled herbs and such into medicine for 1,000 years or so before discovering other ways to use distillation. So distillation almost certainly was not present anywhere around there. And so we don't have absolutely pure water. There would have been all sorts of additives, minerals, bacteria, I don't know what all. But we'll consider it just as being pure H2O, just to make our job easier. H2O, 2 atoms of hydrogen joined to 1 atom of oxygen, forming a water molecule. And of course, these big stone water jugs full of that. In order to make it into wine, what had to happen? Well, the percentage of water would have to go down because we have alcohol in there. Only maybe 10% or so. Maybe not even that high a percentage. The best wine, the strongest wine that they have these days is 10 to 12%. Let's assume that's what it was, 10 to 12% alcohol. Well, that reduces the amount of water by an equal amount. Then there has to be the color, which comes both from the skin of the grapes, assuming they use the whole grapes, and that's the easiest way to make wine without separating out what they call the pomace, P-O-M-A-C-E. And I'm giving you about all I know about winemaking right here. I know very little. We'll assume it was a red wine. They didn't remove the pomace, and so the color got into it. I hate itches. Then in the fermentation, the yeast would add flavors. Different strains of yeast add different flavors during fermentation because their waste products, which are primarily alcohol and carbon dioxide, also include other chemicals. There would be, who knows? Again, I know very little about winemaking. But all this had to be there just as though it had occurred through the natural winemaking process. And Jesus did this by an act of mere will. Now, you may wonder where I'm going with this. It's history, certainly. It really did happen. But where am I going with it? Well, we have people today who think that if you, A, say, I identify as a woman, and B, have various mutilatory operations, and C, have hormone treatments for life. What woman has to take hormones for life in order to remain a woman? Did your mother have to do that? Your aunt? Your sister? Your daughter? No. But there are people who think that those three things make a man into a woman. That is the same sort of thing as my proposed process for trying to imitate wine. It does not change the fundamental nature of the thing. No matter what you do to water to try to make it into wine, you don't get actual wine, you just get adulterated water. No matter what you do to a man to try to make him into a woman, all you get is a mutilated, drugged man. And the same is true if a woman wants to become a man. You cannot change the fundamental nature of a thing. Jesus asked, which one of you by thinking, by his will, can add so much, and I'm paraphrasing, as a single inch to his height? So much as a single day to his life. Which human being on this earth, past, present, or future, can by the exercise of his will cause himself to become the winner of the Mr. Universe contest, big muscles? You look at me, I am obviously not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can I, by the mere exercise of my will, make myself heavily muscled? No. You cannot change the fundamental nature of a thing. Here's, I can't remember what this cover is. I believe it's imitation leather. You cannot change whatever the cover is, the paper, the ink. You cannot change those things into silver and gold and platinum. You can't do it. You would have to change the fundamental atomic structure of them. You cannot change granite into obsidian, especially not by the exercise of your will. You cannot say, I identify the boulder as obsidian, paint it black, smooth it off, give it facets and such, and make it into obsidian. It might fool somebody from 100 yards. Somebody who gets up close to it and knows granite and obsidian is going to know the imposture. Only God can fundamentally change the nature of a thing because He created that thing. God created the granite. He determined the crystalline structure and the shape of the boulder, the size of the boulder, where it sits on the hill. And if He so chooses, by His will, He can change that boulder into obsidian. Just as Jesus, by His will, changed that water into wine. Only God can change a man into a woman or a woman into a man, and God does not do so because in the beginning He created them male and female, not trans, not 49 other genders, male and female. That's how He created them. That's how they are. And this is scientific. I'm not going into the science of DNA, bone structure, all this. But just consider, to change a man into a woman, you would have to change his internal hormone production so that he naturally produces female hormones. You would have to change his bone structure. If nothing else, the pelvis would have to change. A forensic anthropologist can look at a pelvis and determine if that was a male or female. Dry bones, showing in their structure whether that person's male or female, and you can't alter that with drugs and mutilation. All this would have to change. It's scientifically impossible. It's biblically impossible. To promote it is to promote a lie. And it is Satan who's the father of lies, not God. It's all the various false notions which Satan has devised and sent out among men which promote this idea, not Christianity. If somebody says, I'm a Christian and I believe all this trans nonsense, either he's deluded or he's lying and saying he believes it when he doesn't, or he's not a Christian in the first place, and that's the most likely. Well, the first and the third are the most likely. Not a Christian and deluded. It's not possible. If it took God the Son to change water into wine, it would take the almighty power of God to change a man into a woman or a woman into a man. It's just that simple. It's not possible. Don't let anyone fool you.